Hey everybody, this is me, Ebony. How are you guys doing today? I hope you guys are doing well on this beautiful Friday. So one of the topics that I want to talk about today is very serious. Um, I believe it's one of the topics that people don't really talk about, even in the Christian community publicly. I think it's talked about in small circles and things like that, but not really publicly, amongst certain groups. Like there's a bunch of information about it, but I don't feel like it's spoken about. I don't feel like it's aired as much as it should be. My topic today is on domestic violence and child abuse. And this is something that God put on my heart to do a little bit of research, and I have my notes here and some of the websites up, and something that God put on my heart to talk about, um, just about domestic violence and the some of the ways that you can try to break free from. Like I understand, like not everybody's situation is going to be the same. Everyone's situation is going to be different, and that's something that you have to play by ear in each situation. So, and I can't give examples for everybody because, like I said, everybody's situation is different. But today, I'm going to be talking about domestic violence and getting on some things about child abuse and just something that God just put in my heart really heavy to speak about. And it really is my prayer that if you are in a domestic violence relationship, I pray that you get out safely because there are a lot of people who don't get out safely. There are a lot of children who don't make it out, relationships, things like that. And it's sad that the children have to suffer. It's sad that anyone has to suffer from the hands of domestic violence, but especially when children who are so innocent and they can't really feel for themselves. And even if they're, over, teenage years, that they can kind of think for themselves, but somehow they still get, entangled in a crossfire of relationships. But as I go through my notes, it is my deep prayer, and I know it's not going to take just me. Um, my deep prayer that if you are in a domestic violence relationship, if you know someone who is in a abusive relationship, physically, mentally, emotionally, I pray that you help them as much as you can without getting entangled into the situation to where it's now unsafe for you. Um, and if you are the person who is in that situation, I pray that you make that safely because there are, like I said before, people who don't. So, wanted to say, well, it's evening my time, so good evening, people, good evening, world. And I really do pray that you guys are having a blessed day. I really do. I pray that your day is as good as as good as God is blessing you to have. And I pray that you can see what God has blessed you to have. And I'm also going to put this on my podcast. In my podcast, I talk about moving forward in life. I always like to see the positive in things. I'm always trying to move forward and do things. My podcast is about moving forward and um, just along this journey, there are things that we will need to do and habits that we will need to develop in order to move forward. And in moving forward in a positive way, um, you're going to have to get out from under situations that are holding you back in domestic violence and being in abusive relationships is one of them. It, it has no end. Well, it has an end, but a lot of times it's not good. So we can talk about relationships. We can talk about wanting to, have a better life. Um, but domestic violence against women, men, and children is unfortunately happening as I speak. And This topic comes with much prayer and seeking and asking God for help on how to deliver this message as best I can. There's no way I can put this up or make it, you know, pretty because there's nothing pretty about domestic violence. There's nothing pretty about people being abused. Like as I'm speaking now, like there's people all over the world that are being abused right now. There's people who are being tortured. There's people who are being hurt, and they're in so much pain, and they're praying for God to help them. For God to help them, and you shouldn't take your freedom lightly because there are those out there who they don't have that freedom, and you may be thinking, well, how can they have gotten into that relationship and not know that this person is like this? People hide people hide their demons really well, and when you're sometimes desperate for a relationship based on whatever circumstances that you have going on, you sometimes either see the signs and you think that, oh, if I just love this person right, um, they'll change. Or, if I get to know them, maybe they won't be so, you know, maybe they won't be this way, maybe they will change. It's somehow, when I feel like when God shows us the signs of abuse, neglect, emotional abuse, physical abuse, anything that is along the lines of domestic violence, abuse, emotional abuse, uh, sometimes you want to ignore the signs for whatever reason. It's just like you shopping, at a clothing store and you want to buy something that you're on a budget, you can afford to purchase that item, but you want to purchase it anyway, and you ignore that still small voice of you should be budgeting, you should be not doing that, but you go ahead and do it anyway because of your desires. And it's not saying it's the same situation, but it's the same thing when you sometimes know better, but you don't do better. You ignore, things that what it is that you're supposed to do. So I do know that there are times when you you see the signs, you see the warning signs that this person may not be all right, especially they may not be the person for your children, whether you're a single parent as a male, whether you're a single parent as a female, it doesn't matter. Physical abuse, emotional abuse, mental abuse, spiritual abuse happens to men, women, and children. You know, Abuse doesn't have a gender. It's when people do it, they do it. So it doesn't matter who it comes from, and who is being on the other end. So I'm going to read from a few websites some information on abuse, what it is, domestic violence, things like that, and going over a list of names and just letting you guys know that there is help out there for you if this is your situation. Um, so this website that I'm reading from, it's ncadb.org, and it is the what is the title of it? If I can scroll up. Okay, so NCABB is the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. So that's the whole program. Okay, so what is domestic violence? Okay, let me put on the glasses. Okay, what is domestic violence? Domestic violence is the willful intimidation, physical assault, battery, sexual assault, and or other abuse behavior as part of a systematic pattern of power and control perpetrated by one intimate partner against another. It includes physical violence, sexual violence, psychological violence, and emotional abuse. The frequency and severity of domestic violence can vary dramatically. However, the one constant component of domestic violence is one partner's consistent effort to maintain power and control over the other. Domestic violence is an epidemic affecting individuals in every community, regardless of age, economic status, sexual orientation, gender, race, religion, or nationality. It is often accompanied by emotional, abusive, and controlling behavior that is only a fraction of a systematic pattern of dominance and control. Domestic violence can result in physical injury, psychological trauma, and in severe cases, even death. The devastating physical, emotional, and psychological consequences of domestic violence can cross generations and last a lifetime. It is not always easy to determine in the early stages of a relationship if one person will become abusive. Domestic violence intensifies over time. Abusers may often seem wonderful and perfect initially, but gradually become more aggressive and controlling as the relationship continues. What does abuse include? Abuse may begin with behaviors that may easily be dismissed or downplayed, such as, like I said before, it is my prayer that you can get out safely, from um, being in an abusive relationship. And I can give you an example for me. I dated a guy like years and years ago. And well, actually, you know what? I wouldn't even say date. It wasn't dating. We was friends for about 6 weeks, and he approached me and said, "Hey, I think you're cute, whatever, blah blah blah. You know how guys are, or whatever." And he was like, "Hey, would you like to go out?" And I said, "Okay." And I was very specific. I said, "We are not dating. We're just going to be friends and see how this goes." Well, we had been doing this for about 6 weeks, and I still made it very clear, to this person that, hey, we're not dating, blah, 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 just clear boundaries, but we were not on a few dates within those 6 weeks to try to get to, know each other. And this person was actually a believer in Christ. They went to the same church that I went to years and years ago. And there were little signs, there was the anger, there was little things that he would say. And whenever I had boundaries up, like walls, when I say boundaries, things like you wouldn't do, things that you wouldn't allow. We have safe boundaries, realistic boundaries. Um, Whenever he wanted to move forward, I would go, no, we're not moving in that direction. That's not, at the time, it wasn't something that I felt like we should do. So every time I would put a wall up or a boundary, he would say things because he wasn't getting his way. And there was just little signs of things like that. Even in those 6 weeks, even though we weren't like officially like girlfriend like at that time. To me, it was signs. He clearly had anger issues. And this is not me trying to put anyone down. I'm just telling you the signs that I saw. He had anger issues, and I remember it was one incident where he wanted to move in a certain direction, and I'm not going to give all the details because that some things is just not for public consumption. So he wanted to move further along the relationship, and I was like, we're not going to do that. And so there was one time where we were together. He had what is those things called? Like a Nerf gun, the Nerf gun with the little foamy things with like the little hard plastic at the end where you can shoot, little Nerf guns. And I was telling him, hey, I'm gonna just, get my bags or whatever, and my purse or whatever, and I'm going to leave you be, I'm gonna leave you here and whatever. And I was washing my hands and getting ready to walk out because at this point, like I there were signs and I, you know how there's just signs you just start to feel like uncomfortable. So basically, I ended up just walking away. I was like, I'm not gonna do this. So what he did was he had a Nerf gun, and he turned it so quickly, like as I was washing my hands and whatnot, trying to um, get ready to leave and put on my jacket. Like he timed it to where as I was finished washing my hands and like I turned around and he like shot the Nerf gun like and it just hit me, in the face. And I knew that he was doing it on spite because I told him the conversation was over, we're not gonna move forward. And to me that was a sign of the one who was immature. It was immaturity. The person obviously had anger issues. I do not keep in contact with this person to this day. Um, when I ended whatever little thing that we had, I ended it for good and I was like, we're not gonna see each other anymore and I didn't want to move forward with it because to me there were signs even within those 6 weeks. And it's weird how if you can show early signs in 6 weeks, imagine if you was to get married to a person who would do something like that. Like you have clear boundaries, you're respectful, as a male or female, and you're trying to do things God way, and you have a person who is trying to disrespect those boundaries. If you have clear boundaries set that you know that God has given you to walk in, relationship, then you need to stand firm on that and do not allow anyone to move your boundaries. Don't allow anyone to move those walls. You let people be. If they don't want to respect what God has put in your heart to carry out within a relationship, then you need to part ways with those people because that's not who God has for you. God is never going to send you someone who, if He spoke to you how He wants you to live out your life within a relationship, within your future marriage, and a person comes along and they're the complete opposite, and they're showing signs of verbal abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, things like that, you need to part ways and try to do it as simply as possible. So yes, after 6 weeks, I was like, I'm not doing this. I decided to part ways with him, and he tried even after that. He tried to, I guess, reconnect or do whatever, or he tried to, apologize. But I wasn't trying to hear that. But and I give you my example, and you may be thinking, oh, 6 weeks is 6 weeks, but it's an example of I saw the signs, and who knows, maybe he's changed, maybe he hasn't, maybe he's gotten worse. It doesn't matter. I just know that that's not what God had for me. But what I tell you that I say that to tell you is that there's always signs. There's signs that things are not right. Like I said before, you can ignore them because maybe you think if you love them enough, they will change. You're thinking if you have their baby, that they will finally love you in the child. But people who are broken inside, uh, people who people who abuse other people probably have been abused themselves at some point in life as children and even as young adults, and they don't know how to break the cycle. So it doesn't matter what you do. The only the only way that a person can get healed is through Jesus Christ. Like this, Jesus Christ, and I also believe in therapy. Like I believe that you should go to therapy if you need. I believe that you should take medicine if you need. Now I do believe that there's a stopping point, but hey, that's just me. Um, if you are medicine, that's between you and God. But I do believe in getting healed, through Jesus Christ. But I also believe in therapy. I also believe in like safe groups, and places and people who you can just be around to get help if needed. So if you are in an abusive relationship, if you find yourself in that situation, or if you know someone, just know that there's help. There is help in every state within the United States and territories. If you are overseas, there is help in other countries. Like I doing research here and looking on the websites, and they have stuff for overseas. They have Australia, domestic violence organizations and groups abuse and safe houses and things like that. Like every state has something that you can go to for help. And there's like even me doing research for this YouTube and what's going to be my podcast. Like there's so much information. Like there's no way that I can possibly go on every website in every 50 states and every city, every county has so much information. But I try to pull as much information as I possibly can without going bunkers, trying to read this stuff. But one of the websites that I also pulled up, which is in Colorado Springs. It is Survivors of Domestic Violence Champion National Nonprofit in Colorado Springs. And I'm looking at the website, and it's a picture of a bunch of women who are, on the website, and it's a website or an organization that can help women. Now they do actually have organizations out there for men as well, for men and children. Like there's ways you can research it. I'm not trying to talk down on anyone to try to say that you don't know anything. But what I'm saying is that there's help out there. You can look on the internet. You can call the local physician if you have. There's help out there. There's somebody that knows something. There's help out there for you if needed. There's websites that are put you into the right direction of numbers, hotlines. A lot of these organizations have hotlines that you can call, at any time of the day, 24 hours a day for help. To get help. Like there's shelters, there's women's shelters that you can go to, if you're trying to get out of an abusive relationship. There's a lot of things you can do. If your partner is verbally abusing you, calling you names, saying hateful things towards you and your children, that is an example of verbal abuse. If your partner is withholding money from you, like I was reading before, in certain type of situations, that's economic abuse. If your partner is hitting you with their body, using weapons and or household items, that is abuse. If your partner is doing these same things to your children, and it's the same thing. It's not just if it's your children, it's any different. If they're abusing your children, it's also the same thing. It's abuse. But what I also wanted to say is that even if your partner is not doing the same things to your children, just by your children watching you go through the stuff that you're going through, it affects them emotionally and mentally. And it breaks their heart. Even though I always say that kids can't really verbally express themselves like how we as adults can, like how we can analyze something and we can articulate it in words. Children can't do that. They take it in, and sometimes they even take it in better than adults, but their cognitive abilities and their emotional maturity is not there for them to convey to you exactly what it is that's bothering them, exactly what it is that's triggering them. So it's a lot harder for a child to probably actually watch the abuse because you have someone who, out of their innocence, is seeing, their mother or father or their other siblings or, their, stepsisters and brothers get hurt. And in their minds, they're like, I wish I could save them because children are so innocent. Children, they want to save, they want to help, they want to love. That's their nature. They're children. That's how God designed. As human beings, we're at a certain age, we're at a certain stage in life. We see things differently because we're innocent at certain stages. So it's hard for them to watch that and to watch someone go through that and not be able to articulate and not be able to cry out for help. And that breaks my heart. So that really I'm going to try to tear up that. If they are taking you to court, when you provide for your children, is a form of abuse. I've seen it happen. on a few occasions where, you know, I'm not gonna say a lot because even though I've seen it to where it always seems like the women do it to the males, I'm sure that there are men who do it to men who do it to women, but I just haven't seen it a lot. So I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, it's more on the females or the women's end. It's just I haven't seen it, but I've seen where women were mad that the man has moved on to a better life, probably because they were toxic, or it's just a relationship just was not meant to be. I've seen to where men would want to move on, and they would actually move on and with their other significant other to, I guess, to the baby mother who is jealous or was jealous or whatever, what have you, whatever the case is. They may feel like they left them, and they may feel like they are meant to be with this person. So what they try to do is they try to use the child or children to hold back, the significant other, or not the significant other, but try to hold back the biological father by just using the children as weapons, even if the biological father was paying child support or not court ordered child support, but was providing very healthily for their children, so their child, so they can have a roof over their head, have food in their stomachs and clothes on their backs. I've seen it to where they would still take them to court and try to get more because they are paying. They want to try to break up the biological father's future relationship by trying to cause so much drama that their biological child, father would be in so much emotional stress that the other significant other just probably, can't handle it. And that's a form of abuse, when you have the other parent who's taking the former significant other or ex-husband, ex-wife to court because they're just trying to make their life really hell. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some uh, exes, who don't pay child support. There are some exes who don't provide. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about straight up people who are doing the best that they can with what they have, but they're using the court system to hurt them because they are you know, in denial that the relationship is over. So I've seen it happen. So that is another form of abuse. Um, Other forms of abuse that I have written down in my notes is it could be male, female privilege. There are some people like if they're a man, they're entitled to certain things. If they're female, then they are entitled to to certain things. Things of that nature. Trying to isolate them, intimidate is another form of abuse. And you may be thinking, the reason why some people stay, you may be thinking, well, if they're being abused, why would they stay. And I remember growing up, my father would always tell me, never judge a person, for anything because you don't know what it's like to be in the shoes. And my father always instilled that into us, don't judge people you don't know what it's like to be in the shoes. And God can at any time put you in that situation so you can see, what it's like to be in a situation so you can say, oh wow, I didn't know that this could be this way, maybe I should check myself before I go and judge someone else's life. So my father always instilled that into me, into us growing up. So not to say that I'm perfect, I still have my ways and my thoughts, when it comes to certain situations, but I try my best not to judge people in a harsh way. But some people may be thinking, and you may be thinking, well, if they're being abused, why stay in, abusive relationship? There's numerous reasons, and obviously you can probably think, yes, children is one of them. Um, Some people say because it's a false sense of security, you know, you may have a person who's abusive in all forms or just one form, and they may have a certain status. They may be like the mayor of the city, they may be a governor, they may be, they may hold some type of title. They may be a pastor of a church, they may be, the worship leader, they may be an actor or an actress, or a doctor, some type of status in life that makes them whatever. You may be used to living a lifestyle to where you're used to shopping and going on shopping sprees and spending money, and it's just a false sense of security. Like there's so many ways where you can be provided for, um, and still be abused. So that may be one reason why some people stay. Um, it could be because they feel like the person loves them. They may feel like they are not lovable. So whoever loves them must be, meant to be in their lives. There are some people who they have insecurities. They have low self-esteem. Like they don't really see themselves as being a lovable type of person. So when they do find what they think is love, even if it's toxic, they still stay. So it could be economic support, like I said before. It could be the lifestyle that they used to live. Maybe they stay because they don't want to be homeless. They don't want their children to be on the streets, and they would probably rather stay with their abusive person as long as they're not abusing their children if they have a roof over their head, and things like that. Because there are some parents who, or you know some parents who, or guardian who feels like this is the best that they can do, for their child or themselves, at that time. So there's so many reasons why people stay, in this relationship. And there are times when, even if a relationship is on the low end of abuse, like verbal, emotional, even if it's on a low, I wouldn't even call it a low threat, but like say if you have a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the most abusive that you can get in a relationship, maybe it's on a scale of like 1 or 2, and they can tolerate it. But even if they can tolerate it and they don't see it as a sign of abuse, that low tolerance in 10 to 15 to 20 years can cause so much damage. It can cause just as much damage as if a person was on a scale of 8 to 10 worth of years damage that you can do for somebody. So it doesn't matter what type of level or what scale it weighs, it's still abuse. And you know, uh, you are worth more in this relationship and your children. If that is your situation, your your children need you to survive. And if you don't have children, your family needs you to survive. And if you are one of those type of people who are like a lot of people in the world, like you don't have no family, you have been isolated, they think that you're living a wonderful life, and they probably hate you because you don't connect with them anymore because you are in a abusive relationship. But they don't know that you're being abused. If you feel like you have nobody, if you feel like you have no friends, um, God needs you to survive. I need you to survive. I need you to do the best that you can safely to get us out of this relationship and to prayerfully not enter into another one, because it is true, it's statistically true that, if you've been in one abusive relationship, you can easily find yourself into another one, because who we are on the inside, whether you're broken, whether you're whole, who we are on the inside attracts the people on the inside. Um, so if you're constantly attracting men and women who are abusive, there's something in you that you prayerfully should seek guidance on. And it doesn't have to be bad. It doesn't have to be, there are broken people are attracted to people who are whole because it's a safe haven for the person who's broken. So it doesn't mean that anything's wrong with you, but if you've been in an abusive relationship, there's going to be some resonance that's left over So if you're attracting other, abusive partners, it's because, they see something in you that as a predator, because abusive people are predators. They prey on a weak. So get healed from that, get all that stuff, get the junk out, get healed from it. So if you feel like you have the right to live for, you have people to live for. You do. You don't know it yet, but you do have people to live for. I am going to give you this number and I'm going to read it out. This is the National Domestic Hotline. It's 1-800-799-7233. And this is the national, this is all across the United States. National Domestic Hotline, 1-800-799-7233. This is the National Domestic Hotline. So I know every state has programs. I know every city has programs. I know it's broken down, and a lot of these are government funded. A lot of these programs on these websites will say like .org. Like every state has a program. Every city has programs. Every county has programs to help people who are in domestic violence situations, and the list goes on. Even if you think that you might be being abused, but you may think that, it's not that bad, there's still hope for you. There's hope. There's a number somewhere. A librarian might know, a shelter you can go to, call a police. You can call 911. They can get you over to the domestic hotline. They can get you over to a shelter. Um, I'm sure there's probably some police officers who call 911. They would actually escort you to a shelter if you would like to go, like you with children. And yeah, it is my prayer um, that if you are being abused, I pray that you safely get out. If you go to church, I pray that you can talk to someone there in a safe manner to have them help you, and if you don't feel like you want to go to a shelter, within a state, within a city, there are churches who they may have the funds, so they can probably put you up in a hotel, for a month or two, or maybe for a couple of days. Um, you know, there are some churches who they may have a program, that you can go to. They may have something going on, and they may have partnered with organizations that they can help you. Like there's help out there, and I pray that you get help that you need. If you are in an abusive relationship, and I feel like I'm not saying enough, and I know that I'm not, but like I said, I can't give you every website in every state. There's so much information out there, and there's people out there who are willing to help. And there are so many people who die every day. Men, women, children who there's so many fatalities a day, every 5 seconds. I believe is the statistics of children dying at the hands of abuse. From their you know biological parents' partner. There's death every day, and it's unbelievable. And I know they had said that October is domestic violence awareness month, but of course it's pretty much every day. It's every day we need to be aware. And even myself, I speak for myself. I need to be watchful, of the people around me, of the children, so I can recognize the signs. Maybe that's the word they would use. I can recognize the signs. That a child is not well. That a child is being neglected, and that it goes for me as well. When it comes to noticing things like this, because I may very well can be a person who can call 911 or who can call the domestic hotline. And if you want, whatever state you're in, jot down these numbers if you have a cell phone, save these numbers to your cell phone, and if you have an abusive partner who they may look through your phone, save it under, a different name to where it can be disguised. so that way they won't, I guess when you find out, that you're trying to get help. Um, but it is truly my prayer that uh, you get out safely because, like I said, every day there's someone dying, at the hands of an abusive person, and it it can be anyone. It could be any child at any time. Yeah, it could be anything. And what God just put on my heart just now, as I was sitting trying to think of, what else to say is that you could be in an abusive relationship and you could be riding down the road, and he or she may be trying to force you to, ride in a car with them, and maybe you may start arguing and get into a car accident, and that can be a fatality that you can avoid. Maybe the person may get so angry behind the wheel that it could cause an accident, and that would be just very tragic. But it's things that in the relationships that happens, and the violence and the anger and the arguments and the emotional abuse and the physical abuse. It's real. It happens, and yeah, it, I, it is my prayer like this. You can't sugarcoat this topic. You cannot sugarcoat this topic. You can only give the information that's out there. You can help as much as you can without being so entangled in a situation that you cause more harm. Um, you cause the situation to get worse. Like I know as friends, if we're watching someone that's going through that, sometimes we want to try to play the superhero, but we can't play the superhero. Like there has to be a certain point in helping a person who's being abused, who's on the other end, and if they have children being abused, there has to be a certain point to where you have to give it over to legal authorities, professional, uh, professional people who they hold that title. They hold the title of being a doctor, a psychologist. They hold the law enforcement titles. You have to, like victims or family advocacy. I'm sure they have that somewhere. In the states or overseas, there's some things at certain points where you have to handle. You can't be that person's savior. You can help, and they may think that you are their savior, but you can't be so involved that you get entangled into something. Now you're uh, you're so entangled that you may get caught up in something, and you may be called to a house, to their house to try to break up a fight. But is that the smart thing to do? No. You do not want to go to the house of your friend or a family or a loved one who's being abused, and you're trying to help him or her get out the house safely, and now you're end up shot dead or hurt because you were trying to save your friend, your loved one. In those situations where you think that the violence is going to be so escalated, you might want to call legal authorities. You might want to call law enforcement. You want to call 911, the fire department, not the fire department, the ambulance, somebody should that has legal authority to, especially to restrain someone. And sadly, of course, police officers have weapons and batons, and they can legally, professionally handle the situation. Whereas if you try to handle it, the cops may come and you may end up getting arrested because there are some states that they don't recognize self-defense. They don't recognize um, that you're trying to take a certain matter into your hands, and if they don't, or even if they do, it depends on the police officers that arrive. They may feel like maybe if you weren't there, the situation wouldn't have escalated. So therefore, you may end up in jail or with a citation or a ticket or whatever it is that they may charge you with. So sometimes trying to be a superhero in a situation can escalate the situation to make it worse, and that's not good. So at some point, even if we're on the end of helping others and recognizing signs of abuse, there's going to have to be, you're going to have to tell yourself that there may be a point to where you will have to say, okay, I can no longer help you, but I can get you the professional help you need. I can get you the legal help that you need, and I can call 911 for you, and you can get that help. So, I pray that this YouTube live with a blessing to you. I pray that if you are on the abusive and that you get out safely because there are those, as I'm speaking right now, there's someone who died. This video is almost an hour, and there's a few people all over the world within the United States, in Europe, Canada, Asia, Hawaii, something. There's a child who's died. There's a pregnant woman who um, was probably physically abused by her significant other or her spouse, and now she has to give birth to a stillborn baby. There's someone who has died as I was doing this live video, and it's sad and breaks my heart, but it's statistics. So I pray that if you are watching this and you are um, on an abusive end, I pray that you get out safely. There's some women and men and children who are, you may be scarred for life, but I thank God that you have gotten out safely. There, maybe some who were hurt very badly, but they're alive. If you are the friend, if you are the loved one who is um, aware that somebody's being abused, I pray that you can be a covering for them safely. I pray that you don't get involved in a situation that can be more harmful and deadly than if you, um, would have given the situation over. I pray that if we got to that point, that you would have the wisdom to turn the situation over. Because a lot of times we try to play um, savior to people in situations that we have no business trying to be a personal savior. But Jesus' job and as law enforcement and legal counsel that is professionally psychologist therapists. There are people who are qualified in those areas that we are not. I pray that if you are on the end of your friend, the family member, the loved one, I pray that you just be a covering for the people that you may know. You may be a covering for them to help them get out safely because there's no tomorrow that's guaranteed for people in life, especially for those who are um, in abusive relationships. There's just no guarantee that they can get out. Yeah, so yeah, this is not a pretty message. Um, there are so many people who died and who have died based on domestic violence relationships, and I'm going to read a list of names. And this is in the country of Spain alone. I tried to find some list of names for the people who were within the United States, but for some reason there's list of names that I come up, but I'm sure they have them. I just couldn't find it on the website, and maybe because I'm overseas, I couldn't access it. Being here in Italy, I probably couldn't access the list of names because it's in the United States. So, but I did pull up some names. I'm not going to list all, but these are the list of names of people who have died from domestic violence, and this is in the country of Spain. And it says that, and this is since 2003, and it says that it's 999 names. I'm not going to read off, but I'm just reading some. And um, they don't give the age of the victim. Oh yeah, okay, so it gives the age. Okay, first name is Yana, age 28, January 2003. Died. Rocio, age 35. Zola, age 35. Died in 2003. Some people don't have an age. Okay, so you have Josephine, age 74. Domestic violence happens at all types of ages. Candelaria, age 70. Alicia, age 33. Jenny, age 41. Maria, age 61. Imperial, age 23. Berta, age 22. Savannah, age 18. Catalina, age 63. Maria, age 41. That's sad. Very, very sad. Rosa, age 38. Rosario, age 55. Fructosa, 71. Age 71. Oh, wow. Uh, Amadita, age 13. So that's one child so far. Isabel, age 19. Alba, age 14. Hannah, age 19. Rosa, age 16. And the list goes on. And the list is long. Like I said, it's 999 names, and this is just in the country of Spain alone. And this is since 2003, and they give a span of up to. Yep, the data goes from 2003 to 10 June 2019. So that's a few months ago. Um, so yeah, those are the list of names and a few of the children who were in that list. It's very sad, very tragic. So I am going to end this live YouTube topic on domestic violence. And I pray that you take this to heart. I pray that you not only see the signs of someone being abused, and if you are the person who is being abused, you just is on the road and you don't even know because it can, you don't know where the relationship is going to head in 10 to 2 years. If it's not God ordained, if God did not say yes, okay, it's no. And God is not going to take 3 years of you being in a relationship for Him to say yes at this person who is supposed to be with. So, whatever sign you see, recognize it, and I pray that you have the strength to leave. I pray that you have the wisdom to leave safely. I pray that you have covering. I pray that there are those around you who will help you, and that you will recognize the help that God sends you. Um, yeah, I do. That is my prayer. So, and I pray that whoever else is listening to this message, even if it's 2 years from now, 3 years from now, I pray that it something from this message, and not just my message, like go on YouTube. There are so many people on YouTube and other documentaries and things like that who speak on this topic. But like I said at the beginning, it's not as it's not a normal topic. Like it's not like a weekly topic in the news that you see. Um, yeah. So that is my prayer. That you seek the help that you need. I pray that this is a blessing to somebody. I pray that you do get out. And like I said, as I was speaking, and doing this live YouTube video, there are many little children who have died at the hands of the predator, which is so sad because there are people out there who need help every single day. And they get in some situations and they don't know how to get themselves out. So you may very well be that person help. So I pray that you all have a blessed evening, and I will talk to you again soon.